And if I can find it, I'll do the, oh yeah, there's the summary. Okay. Started that. So I'll call the September, what are we, 26th,
27th.
20,
no,
26th.
26th,
Okay.
September
26, right?
26th, 2024, ITAC meeting to order at 7:35 p.m. The first order of business is to figure out who's taking minutes. So I'm looking for one of you to sign up.
Who hasn't taken minutes? That'd be great.
I've never done it. I can give it a shot if you guys are willing to put up with the results.
That's
Sure.
fine, and I'll send you the summary, which some people have found helpful for reminding them of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll do. I'll run that thing through ChatGPT and bada bing, bada boom, we're good.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I will not also not promise to use Emacs.
Yeah. You don't have to. I'll take care of
Okay.
that when you send me the text. Um,
Back in a second. I'm going off camera, but I'm not off audio.
okay. So the attendance, Jonathan, you can get that just by looking at the Zoom window. We haven't had to deal with that. Please note we do have a town staff visitor with Chris McClure here. I'll give Chris an opportunity to introduce himself soon. But the next order of business will be to approve the July minutes. Let me share that.
Uh,
Right, you guys can see the
Mhm.
minutes.
Yes.
Okay. If anybody had sharp eyes, they might have noticed that I didn't have the date in the conference room in what I emailed out because I foolishly forgot to fix that when I put it in the template, but I fixed that when I noticed it when I just opened this up. Otherwise,
that's all I was going to comment on. So,
yeah. This is otherwise this is pretty much I think it's verbatim from what Jonathan sent me.
yeah.
Throw me under the bus, huh?
Just a slight edit. I would change beyond in several IT staff beyond Dave Petto to in addition to Dave Petto.
Okay.
Where,
Mhm.
I would add in the next sentence, as stated to Dave Goldberg, because now we're mentioning multiple
Yes.
Good
Daves.
call.
Mhm.
I don't know if there's a missing quote or an extra quote, but all is well. Perhaps the beginning of the quote is at the all. No, no, back a little more. There.
Oh, do we even need a quote?
Well, I don't know if it was quoting
I don't think it was
all is
intent.
well.
I think, yeah, I
Okay.
think the schools was possessive, so that had a
Yes.
quote. But yeah, I think the other one was not
Okay.
needed. Good catch. Thank you.
Yeah, there's another extra apostrophe here after need, cyber need.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if this was from me importing from Word or something.
Maybe. And then after victims as well.
Yeah, that's probably what happened.
there are no other comments. I move that we accept the minutes as amended.
I'll second that motion.
Do we do, sorry, one more small possible comment after September 26th.
Oh, yeah, okay. Might as well do that.
Uh, Could I make a helpful comment to Jonathan Burge? Jonathan, you don't have to record all these changes. There's just a 1 or 2 liner about us making minor edits and then approving the minutes.
I wrote minutes from prior meeting discussed with only minor corrections and typos pointed out. Is that good?
Yeah, perfect.
Correct.
Sounds great.
Let me anticipate my next question is when everyone votes, do I have to record each person's vote or
Yeah,
just say the ballot?
we're supposed to put down each person
Okay, will
on
do,
the votes.
will do. That's what I was planning on
Thanks.
doing. Just
But you can also just say adopted unanimously or something like that.
okay.
If they've criticized me for that before, so what I've always done is when it's unanimous, I put unanimous while I'm writing it because it
Yeah.
takes too long to, and then I paste in the names of who's there,
Roger.
and put yeses after them.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Except for the very end, when it's a motion to close. I don't think if they criticize me on that one, the hell with them. It's funny. Town clerk is said to me, I'm one of the better ones at getting them minutes on a timely basis. But every so often when they do their audits, they'll come back with silly stuff like that because they have to say something.
Yeah. Well, they can be timely or we can list every single person. They can't have both.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I guess let me stop this so that I can see. So with respect to a vote, Dan,
Aye.
Charlie,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Jonathan Green.
I think I need to abstain. Is that right?
You don't need to. I always did it traditionally, but it's up to you.
I'll follow tradition. Sure.
Okay. And Jonathan Burge. And I'll
I
say
will
aye
also-
as well.
I will also abstain.
Yeah. Oh, because you weren't there, right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. That's still enough to but
Jonathan.
now you have to remember that.
I wrote it down. Yeah, it was a Jonathan free meeting, so we both abstained.
Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, Jonathan Green abstained because he took the minutes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I apologize. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry for impugning your integrity, Jonathan.
All right, I will take care of submitting these to town clerk. Well, we don't have anyone from the public here, so I'll take advantage of this, and I guess we should probably take some time to introduce ourselves to Chris and Chris to us. I don't know who wants to go first.
Why don't you just call on us one by one?
Okay. Paul, why don't you start us off?
Sure thing. Hey, Chris, I'm Paul Roberts, ITAC member for, I don't know, a bunch of years. I was chair before Dave, and I am a town meeting member from Precinct 8, and a former school committee member where I was an ITAC representative back in 2010, around that time. And my day job is I work for a cybersecurity company named Reversing Labs. I'm also a cybersecurity kind of journalist, and I've got my own publication called Security Ledger. So pretty steeped in the cybersecurity world, have been for the last 2 decades. And also pretty involved in the national right to repair movement. I'm a board member of the Repair Coalition and founded a group called Secure Repairs that is cybersecurity pros who support a right to repair. And in fact, helped organize a Fix-It clinic at the Belmont Public Library, which has not the Belmont Public Library, but at the Beach Street Center, coordinated with the public library to do it, which is coming up in November. And I am the Library Board of Trustees representative to ITAC. So Library Board of Trustees gets one member on this committee, and it's me. So that's me.
Oh, thanks, Paul. I think you might have just taken care of item number 7 too. That'd be the Fix It Clinic. Charlie.
Fix it thing. Well, yeah, there's more discussion about
Chris, my name's Charlie Smart. I happen to be the person who founded the committee back in the 1990s, and they keep me on here for historical perspective, I think would be the best. And I like to think I make contributions on the technical side. I was also the co-founder of actually a Belmont-based software firm called Smart Software. I don't know if I told you, fellas, but I'm proud to say we finally sold Smart Software to an even larger software company. So I happen to be I've been sort of retired to a great degree because I was only on the board of directors for a while. But now I'm officially retired. I can devote even more time to ITAC. And I've had a long time interest because of my career in information technology issues. I've also been close to a lifelong resident of Belmont. I've sent my 2 children entirely through the school system. They are now well launched, I hope, as young adults. So I have a background, I believe, in the town as well as the ITAC issues. I also was a former town meeting member.
Jim.
Okay. So it's nice to meet you, Chris. Jim Barretts. Um, let's see. I've been on the ITAC for, I think, at least through about 5 different jobs. So many years. Um, right now, I'm a product manager at Red Hat. And what else can I tell you? I'm a former, like many of the current members, I'm a former co-chair of the ITAC. I can't even remember what years that was during, though. Um,
We're
and
nervous.
yeah, and let's see, my favorite candy is peanut M&Ms. It's nice to meet you.
Jonathan Green.
Had to get off mute. Hi, Chris. Jonathan Green here. I've been a member of ITAC probably almost as long as Charlie, but not quite. Uh, and along the way, I've also been well, I've been chair at some point of ITAC, but I've also been a member of CTAC, which is the Cable Television Advisory Committee, helping to negotiate the franchise agreements between the town and Verizon, as well as Comcast. No longer part of CTAC, but I guess about the same time as I joined CTAC, maybe a little bit before, I helped to found the Belmont Media Center, which you may already be familiar with. If not, you will get to be familiar with them soon, providing sort of community TV services and more to the town of Belmont. I'm trained as a physicist. My early career was on the research staff for MIT at Lincoln Laboratory. And over the last dozen years, though, I've been in the finance world, having founded a investment management firm based up in Burlington. 2 kids, now sort of flown the coop, although my son's actually back living with us, so I guess that's not true. But he's somewhat nomadic. So there's more to say, but I'll stop there.
my daughter is working at Lincoln Labs.
Really? Excellent.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey,
Really
Jonathan
cool.
Burge.
Hi, nice to meet you, sir. I am actually still at Lincoln Labs. I lead the remote sensing and artificial intelligence group at Lincoln. I've been on the committee, I think for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, right before COVID, I think. I think I'm one of the select board appointees. And that's probably, I lived in Belmont for about 12 years now, so it's probably all the relevant info as pertains to this committee. And I live down the street from Jonathan Green. That's my other claim to fame.
Dan.
I'm Dan Ellard. Nice to see you again. I'm a select board appointee. I've lived in Belmont for little bit more than 20 years, put two kids through the school system. They're often on their own, but they come back quite frequently. And, you know, this whole new remote work thing means they can come home and hang around with mom and dad for months at a time sometimes. My day job, as Paul put it, is I'm an engineering fellow and lead scientist for Raytheon. Well, we changed our name recently, but Raytheon is what you'd think of. Raytheon BBN Technologies, which is right over by Fresh Pond in the network and cyber technologies group. And I've never been to Lincoln Lab. So I'm the oddball here.
And hey, Chris, also nice to see you again. Dave Goldberg, the chair, along with Dan, of the committee. We're co-chairs. And I spent 34 years at MITRE, so all the Lincoln guys must hate me. I was involuntarily retired in 2020, and I've been doing some subcontracting. My current client is a Japanese airline that needs to get its cybersecurity crap together because it's moving away from outsourcing everything and dumping all the PCI DSS responsibilities and stuff like that on their providers. So they're scrambling to get their policies and stuff together because sometime in the next year they're going to have to go through an audit. And it's the sort of work that would have made me cringe if they asked me to do that at MITRE, but I'm actually enjoying it. I can't believe it. So anyway, so I'll turn it over to you, Chris, to introduce yourself and talk about what your plans are for the town.
Yeah,
that's what we all want to know.
Well, it's been a month and a half,
Yeah.
so I'm still here. Great to meet all of you. And I did speak to Dave and Dan ahead of time. And I still remember Dan's idea for doing a TV show on Belmont Media. And I'm going to hold you to that because I think that was a good idea. I've already talked to Jeff about it.
Great.
So I have probably almost 25 years experience in municipal IT in Massachusetts now. It's hard to believe. Heavy concentration in public safety, emergency management over that time. I have somewhat of a reputation for being a change agent. I think that's why I'm in Belmont. Your town administrator recruited me to come on board and I think make some changes. To your point in the minutes about the staff, we are now fully staffed already in the first month. We were fortunate to hire Rebecca Cipriano, who was acting as a temp contractor who got to shadow with Anthony a little bit and really is a gangbuster employee. Nasser obviously is still with us. Samri is still with us as our admin. We were able to take her from less than half-time to half-time to do some administration work. Hired our assistant IT director, Samuel Ross, who's coming from the Perkins School for the Blind in Watertown. I think that's going to be a good fit. And then we also hired Michael Loring as our technician on the town side. And then, as you know, we're taking over ownership for the police IT shortly. So we're interviewing candidates for that position and have a couple good ones and hope to have that filled in the next week or so. So pretty excited. We are doing a little bit of restructuring. Obviously, they've converted the position to be a CIO position, and I actually requested it be Chief Innovation Officer because I really see IT as transformational and not just right in the back closet, is actually having an impact in a lot of what we do, and we're starting to see that. So Patrice, for example, has invited me already to all of the individual departmental budget meetings. So we're going to go and make an introduction. I've already been meeting with a lot of the department heads one-on-one to kind of put together a plan, but we're going to look at the budgets with an eye toward consolidation, standardization, looking at getting rid of some of the shadow IT that sort of exists when there's not a strong central IT department. So pretty excited. We are looking at, and obviously cybersecurity is first in mind, but I think the big challenge today is to not be paralyzed by IT. I think we need to find a way forward so that we have adequate, right? We feel that we're doing enough from a cybersecurity standpoint or positioned well, but we're also not afraid of our own shadow and not able to do anything. So as I was saying, I want to make sure that Belmont is able to use technology to innovate and to improve government, greater efficiency, transparency, communication, all those things that I got into IT and government for, instead of just having technology. And I think that's that big balance. So we're looking at, I think, being smarter about using managed services, looking at all of our different tools, looking at some hybrid cloud models. But there's a lot on the table. But my focus is make sure that we're safe, make sure we've got that right balance, but have the confidence to move forward and actually use technology again and not be paralyzed for it. So it's a tough equation. As you probably know, Belmont received about $77,000 as part of the state cybersecurity initiative. So we are looking to put together some tabletop exercises and some initial penetration testing and some other things around that. But one of my thoughts was I think the ITAC would be a great resource for some policy development. I think everything starts with policy and procedure and getting that sort of documented. That's one place municipalities don't mature into a lot of times. So I may put you to work. I think putting some governance pieces in place, I think would be a good use of this group with your expertise. And it's something that is seen as a luxury sometimes in terms of being short-staffed internally, but I think that would be a good way forward. So we're looking at restructuring the assistant director into more of a business manager role. We have two systems administrators. We're sort of morphing the second systems administrators to more boots on the ground, working with the technicians, making sure that things are applied. So I want to focus on, again, doing things and not just keeping the lights on. So some restructuring there, becoming a force multiplier, using there's some room in the budget, I think, to do some creative things so we can free up some capacity again so that we're doing some stuff. So I'll talk to my budget strategy in a bit. But so I do have a strong background in PEG access. So I actually started my IT career way back at Lowell Telecommunications, doing some work around a big advocate of digital equity. I've always worked on digital equity and bridging the digital divide and accessibility and all that good stuff. Have negotiated many a cable contract. I've already started talking to Jeff about doing some programming. I'm a big believer in transparency to the public as well. So not just increasing communication internally, but making sure that the public sees the ROI and what we're doing and putting a face to some of this tech. So a lot of that is in the work. And I've already started talking to Jeff around the existing Comcast PEG renewal that he's working on. I've had my fair share of town meetings over the years. I had a reprieve in Watertown over the city council, but I've never experienced representative town meetings. So I'm looking forward to getting to know that process. It's a different animal. I understand. But yeah, so Belmont, as you know, has a very aggressive budget season. So budgets are already due tomorrow. We're starting the whole budget cycle. My first approach is to do no harm. I want to get an understanding of right where we are. I'm hoping, and I think we've identified some areas where we can create some efficiencies or some consolidation to chisel up a little money now to put some initiatives in place. I put a pretty aggressive budget together for fiscal year 26 already in terms of operating and capital. So a lot of the stuff you have to breathe out before you can breathe in. That if you're going to bring in new systems, you have to have some parallel processes and dual things. So hopefully we have the patience to get there. But I don't expect it all to be accepted, but I wanted to get all the chips on the table. So at least there's a discussion and we start setting expectations about where we're going to take IT in the future. I kind of take a zero-based budgeting approach in terms of building things from actual numbers and projects over the year. So by, I think, putting a more business focus on the IT department over the next year, hopefully we can free up some breathing room in the fiscal year 26 budget. And then by this time next year, I will definitely have a clear idea of the next 5-year operating a capital plan in terms of exactly what we want to do and where we can create some of those efficiencies and start putting technology to work for us. So I know that was a lot, but that's my sort of pulse after the first month and a half plus in Belmont.
Thanks. I just have one question to your point about the grant that we got and stuff to develop it. One of the things Dave was working on, and he'd been working on it for way longer than he should had to have been working on it, is the incident response, which we want to be townwide, not just town departments, but including school, including police, and so on. And he had I don't know what the state of it was, but he had identified a contractor and was essentially, I think it was New Harbor, if I remember right, and he was waiting on the response for the grant to be able to actually get things going, because that's where the money was going to come from. Is that still kind of in play, or is
Yeah, no. So New Harbor just came to my attention, has had some serious internal leadership issues and has kind
okay?
of fallen apart a little bit. I've already, with some of the state contract vendors I have a relationship with, put together a proposal that basically mirrors that. We're ready to enact that. There is an onboarding meeting from the state, I think on October 6th or somewhere on that week. They haven't released the funds to the town yet. So there's that sort of pre-meeting. We plan on pushing that out. The scope of this piece is a little limited. It's really, sort of focusing on tabletop exercise and doing a little incident response, a little penetration testing. I'm hoping that this is going to be the first step in a larger governance strategy, a sort of ongoing investment and again, policy development, auditing, right, remediation, and sort of rinse and repeat, and as those margins get smaller. But coming from an emergency management background, I totally agree. I've already talked to the deputy chief, at fire, the emergency management director, Andrew, about making sure that IT has a seat at the table in the emergency management discussion, and in terms of really expanding the way we think about emergency management in general. One of the things I've seen in a lot of communities is people are kind of shy about engaging emergency, setting up an EOC and going through the exercise. And really the thinking is you should be standing it up every opportunity you can, because the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it, the more you're going to get in that emergency management mindset from a day-to-day basis. And a cybersecurity event really in today's world would be no different if we had a flood or a hurricane or another sort of large scale disaster, and should be treated the same way. And I think much like the finance departments have sort of embraced auditing as a healthy thing. I think in IT, part of the goal is to take the stigma away from audit as sort of a bad thing. IT people tend to be people pleasers to an extent, tend to be sort of, fix it and move on minded. And I think sometimes there's a fear of, exposing or revealing, even for, small breaches. And I think we want to get into a culture of healthy auditing, healthy reporting and transparency, and put that into process, much like the financial department. So I totally agree. It worked like anything else. I'm hoping this grant is going to be the first step in a whole governance piece. And in my mind, there should really be a budget amount allocated to that every year. I like to sort of set it and forget it, model. We figure out the different components and different buckets that need to be funded, figure out what the right annual, funding level is. And then you don't get in these situations where everything needs to happen all at the same time. You get these sort of, bottlenecks where everything builds up. So that's a budget challenge. We got to figure out what that number is. And again, it's something that will be bigger in the beginning, and then hopefully you get to some sort of maintenance level, but should never go away as we start funding this stuff. But
Thank you.
Chris, can I ask you if you're aware of the incident response document that this committee prepared a few years back?
no, and I'd love it if you shared it with me.
Dave, can you arrange that, or?
We didn't prepare one.
I'm talking about the document that went off to the select board.
That wasn't about
on the
incident response. That was
that was
more about
ransomware
ransomware in general.
prevalence.
That we can make available to them.
I
Yeah,
misspoke, but it did have something to do with.
that was a driver actually for trying to get Dave to back Dave up with the select board to get them to finally take it seriously.
Well, in any case, it was
Yeah.
about a potential of a cyber threat, and it just might provide you with some good background material.
Yeah,
Yeah, any
we
documents you
basically
guys
just-
can put
yeah.
together and share with me, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, Dave, you've got that, right? You can share it with me.
I'll look, but I may need your help finding it, Paul, because I think it were in your Google Docs that they were initiated
Maybe
in.
Yeah.
we basically interviewed, the IT leads from the various departments in town specific to their ransomware preparedness and the, security measures they had in place and stuff like that. We wrote up a report,
Okay.
highlighted the problem and made some recommendations.
All right. Yeah, I mean, based on my initial impression, so Belmont is not really declared a side in terms of communication or productivity software. I am leaning heavily to the Google platform with where the schools are on it, the libraries on it, Belmont Media is on it, you guys are on it. There are a lot of silos in terms of the way people communicate. So I think we can create room, right, to do that. And I think that's exceptionally good at sort of mixing, sort of on-prem. And so we're leaning heavily toward that. I think hopefully we can get that done in fiscal year 26. And I think very quietly behind the scenes, that will facilitate a lot more collaboration, communication, right, between the school, between the town, media, the library, right, external committees. So we're kind of on that road. So I've been trying to sell that a little bit softly now, but it's looking good.
So that would be a move off of Office 365 completely, or I mean, there's
No,
probably a lot of
because
Microsoft stuff embedded.
well, I've learned my lesson. You can never take word away from people.
Yeah.
I always make sure to caveat it when I ever talk about Google to say, and you can have Word in Excel. And there's a lot of because really the cloud doesn't mean anything. The cloud can mean whatever it wants. So all this has to really be explicitly explained in terms of what cloud means, which cloud, how it works. But Belmont's in a unique situation. It's kind of a favorable one where we haven't really gone too far down the Office 365 route. So we're running basically a hybrid, right? Half on-prem, half cloud exchange, right? Piece we're not doing too much with. Most people are just using Outlook, really. They finagled the last perpetual license for Microsoft Office that's not Office 365 that we have access to for a few years. So we can have to figure out that cost model as Microsoft is really pushing people into the subscription model for, even Office. But Belmont is not using Teams. They're not using OneDrive. They're not using SharePoint. They're not using, right, any of the collaboration tools. And there are a lot of other sort of one-off standalone tools that they're paying for that Google would integrate. So I think the cost model is there to do it, well. There might be some overlap for year one as we look at this. But that's what made the decision a little easier. And I think also because of the size of Belmont and from other municipalities, it's a relatively young workforce, a relatively new workforce, and it's a relatively fragmented in terms of there are a lot of committees, right, and people working on site and off site. I think a lot of stuff we want to communicate internally and then also share with the public. And having worked in a pure Office 365 environment and a pure Google environment, the Google environment to me is just more elegant, more return for your investment. And especially where the school is such a dominant force and where we have a shared facilities department, for example, they're constantly struggling to collaborate or share documents or work between the facilities and the school. There may be a little work to convince the police department to come fully on board with that, as they're still running an old Fortinet mail client appliance on site. But they seem receptive to some help. So there's a lot of my role now has been building relationships and trust, and I think I like to use an attrition model of IT and change, and not come in as a conqueror, but come in as someone, right, who helps, I believe in the concept of form-based planning from the planning school, putting in policies, putting a comprehensive plan, doing the big things that make sense. Don't fight fights that you don't need to fight, and then you gain grounds through attrition as things come up for renew, and then you're a hero and not a conqueror in some of this stuff. So that's the overall kind of vision in these multiple phases. But I do think by looking at some of our cybersecurity tools and some of the kinds of things that we're doing, we're very IT heavy on the back end, and then we're spending a lot of time patching things and updating things. And what I like to say, we're logging into the abyss. So we have a lot of cybersecurity tools that are just screaming to no one, that are not actionable or not monitored. And I think very easily for the same or less money that we're already spending on a lot of these redundant cybersecurity tools, we can go to a managed services model where you get a lot of those advantages of the cloud, right? For the same or less money, You're buying a firm of people and not just one or two people. You're getting a range of expertise that no one person could replace. You're getting continuity. There has been a lot of turnover in Belmont, I've seen, right? So the idea of capturing institutional knowledge with a firm over time, I think, would be valuable. But at the same time, because we're already spending this money, I think in a way that's sort of holding us back. That's what I mentioned earlier. I think we can pivot a little bit, get more for less with the managed services model, still have that peace of mind knowing that there's both automation and human intelligence. The idea of some person in a room watching the monitor and calling you if there's an issue or taking action at 2 a.m. on a Saturday. That's not happening now. And then again, allowing our staff to pivot to training, to doing projects, to getting the return on investment out of these things that we're going to start doing, communicating better with the public. I've recommended, for example, already that we put in at least a part-time web and social media person. I think we could do a lot better job proactively doing outreach, have someone who has ownership over the web content, who's thinking about social media, who's thinking about consistency and communicating better. We evaluated a product today that Patrice was pretty excited about, CityBot, that has some chat, features and some AI automation. But the most important thing to me, it offers a powerful search for the website in plain language that can also do federated searching across all the town's sites in one place that gives much better user experience. So these little things, I think, this low-hanging fruit are going to go a long way as we pivot toward being more of a customer service department, more of a front-facing department with more capacity.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so I'll move on.
Yeah.
Go
I
ahead.
mean, yeah. It sounds like a lot of really interesting stuff going on. And really exciting. One thing I've thought about often and has come up occasionally at town meeting is the idea of having a kind of I don't know what you call it, 311 app or something like that, a sort of mobile app that people can use to report things or
Yeah, so
potholes.
that's on my list.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're a Civic Plus customer now for our website, for better or worse, or as Winston Churchill said, they're the worst there is, except for all the rest. But there is an app that we were using in Watertown, and it's sort of become the industry standard called SeeClickFix. That is a 311 constituent services type app that also has the double benefit of acting as a de facto mobile app for residents, and that's pretty short money. I would be totally on board with putting that in place. But
was that well received in Watertown?
Yeah. Watertown, we were actually on our way to building an actual 311 department. We worked for a couple of years on that, and they are now the smallest community in Massachusetts with the formal 311 department. We actually have a constituent services director, a 311 operator. So
great idea.
Would love to see that for Belmont eventually. Phase 2 or 3. But the nice thing is the chatbot we were looking at today in search has that capacity built into it. So if we added a 311 system in the future, it could feed. So even, we're looking at just starting with, say, a web chat, which is also mobile friendly, but it eventually can support text, WhatsApp, right? The sort of big funnel of collecting email, everything into one hopper, and then having one system, one source of truth for sort of pushing that out. The big focus for this year, I mean, honestly, in terms of dissatisfaction, is upgrading the permitting and licensing software and putting in more robust GIS services. So that's a big priority. That's been a constant complaint from the departments.
Well, Chris, let me just say.
I did have one.
Sorry,
I did have one quick question. So, anyway, Chris, it sounds like you've accomplished a lot in a very short amount of time, at least as far as learning and getting your hands around or brain around some of the things that are going on. I commend you for that. What I'm curious, with the observations you've made so far, like how you would compare and contrast what you see on the ground in Belmont with the town you came from.
Yeah, so again, I kind of have a reputation for being a change agent. So for me, every town is a canvas, and they're all different. So Watertown, and not to tell stories out of school, but had nothing basically, right, going in. So it was kind of an interesting environment where they had nothing. And I've said this publicly in Watertown, so I'll say it here. I used to compare it to feudal Japan, where they had all of a sudden decided that they needed to modernize. And to their credit, they did an IT study. They brought me on board. And in 4 or 5 years, we were able to do a lot. But it was a blank slate. So literally, there wasn't there was one person in the IT department. They needed everything. So it was everything everywhere all at once, I used to joke. Belmont is, in a weird way, more mature, right, from an IT standpoint. So, which has its pros and cons because it's much easier when you go in as a blank slate and there's no expectations, and right, you can take risks and right build. So Belmont, they have a much more mature, sort of more private sector oriented IT department, right, from what I can see. So one of the challenges, most of our IT department is from the private sector. And municipal IT and private IT are very different animals in terms of just, thinking and our, customer set and how we think about it. And I was a little nervous looking that you were too squared away, that it was going to be hard to move the blocks around. But after looking, for a month and a half, I can see areas already where, again, we can create some room and create some pivots within that space. It's a unique challenge. I'm excited, but every town is different. But the culture here is very professional. I've been very impressed with how professional the culture is. The departments are very professional. They're very organized. They seem to be able to execute right thing. I think the thing that's been lacking in the IT department is sort of more of a global vision and looking at, as one town and departments. And one of the things personally that I've really stressed is, again, changing the way people think about IT, and that's why I insisted on the Chief Innovation Officer position, is to make sure that IT has a seat at the table. We're not just the people in the back room, right, rebooting the server, making sure the internet is running. In 2024, IT really touches everything. We have ideas about how, right, things can integrate or how things can be improved, and we really act as a catalyst. And even as just a professional courtesy, right, piece of having people not think about like the IT department in municipality as like a glorified contractor, right? Basically, or the people you call when your printer doesn't work and they climb under the desk and right plug it in. So I think it's a change in mindset. And I think having IT at the table for all the budget discussions is going to go a long way to communicating that to departments. And most departments have been extremely receptive so far, but
it's refreshing to hear that because I think one of the things that has happened on this committee or via this committee a few times over the years is that one of us will read a public notice in the paper, like an RFP for something in another department, like the facilities department, and we'll be reading it and say, oh, this is an RFP for, say, security cameras or a centralized locking system for the school system, and say to ourselves, that seems like that's at least tangentially related to IT and an issue where security of a technology nature should be considered. And it did seem like that was something where there wasn't that level of connection between the departments within the town of Belmont where IT would be consulted on those kind of questions. And so we would sometimes bring those to IT's attention, but that seems a little backward, right? It should be that you all would be engaged in the process before the RFP went out the door to make sure that, the right questions were asked of the vendor, whether it's like an electrical metering system or something else.
Yeah, I mean, part of that is the culture of local government everywhere is the siloing of departments. Part of it is a thing I've fought forever is the way our like bid process works for construction, where, especially as things are awarded to the lowest bidder, that you have 10 different security systems and 10 different HVAC systems. And to make the argument that even if it's a little bit more expensive to put in the standardized system, right, the cheap becomes expensive. It's the ROI and having an integrated security camera system or access control system or HVAC system is much better than paying bottom dollar for 10 different, right, off the shelf systems. And part of it is just a mindset. And I think, again, sort of covertly, my goal of putting in something like Google and bringing everything together is to softly erode some of those silos, make it easier to communicate, make it more natural to communicate so that it's not one more step. And then back to my earlier point, just give IT a seat at the table at the beginning of the process, because it is frustrating to be brought in, right, at the end of a construction project or at the end of a whatever thing and say, oh, by the way, we need you to make all this work. And we said, whoa, you don't have enough data drops. You don't have this. You don't have this. It would have been nice if you brought us in at the beginning. And that's a cultural shift and something that I'm going to be repeating many, many times, I think, into the future here.
Great to hear.
Jonathan, I think you had something.
Well, I just want to say this all sounds great, Chris. It sounds like you're really, coming into this, hitting the ground running, and it's refreshing for me to hear. And the extent that you can leverage us, we're here to help. So feel free to be in constant contact with us. I think it'll be a good relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so moving down the agenda, I've got two things to report on. I'll switch the order because the number 5 is easiest. Nothing has happened with the light board because I have not had the cycles to do anything with them since the spring. Just Chris, so you're aware, the light board does not appoint any of our members. That's because the light board until a year or two ago was the select board. Now that there's an independent light board, and a lot of our concern is with the light department's separate IT department of one person plus a managed service provider, it is raised a lot of concern for us. As you've heard, most of us have careers in cybersecurity. The press is full of the threats to critical infrastructure. There's one of the wonderful things about having a municipal light department is that it's very small and focused on the town of Belmont. One of the downsides of that is they don't have the scale that some of the bigger ones have to implement the kinds of protections that their infrastructure really ought to have. So we've been talking to them a lot, and we had the idea last year of suggesting that maybe they would appoint one or more members of the ITAC so that they would have a closer relationship to it. And on the first email exchange, they seemed kind of enthusiastic, but the last time I talked to them, they're like, why does it matter? You're talking to us anyway. So I was going to go back to them and and try to hash that out, because I mean ultimately it's their call, but I have not had any opportunity to do that yet. So that's the update on the light board.
So I did have a chance to meet with Craig and Matt, the school IT director, and I. So as you probably know, the town also has a $250,000 municipal fiber grant. So we're going to be engaged in contract. We are engaged in contract to finish building that out. My plan is to have every town and school site adequately connected, to have the ring in place, and we need to look at some topology, between physical and logical segregation between all the different sites. But we did engage the light company with that. I think there's some relationship building that has to happen there. My understanding is there's some sort of history where relationships may have soured at different points. So my goal is to build some trust and start working on some projects with them, and hopefully get to a point where Matt has broached the idea of possibly merging IT departments and sort of bringing that under one umbrella. But we do have some work to go there.
That's interesting, because that's the other thing to report on. We were hoping to have Matt talk to us at the last meeting, and he wasn't able to make it. But since I hadn't met him in person yet, I was on vacation when he came on board, and did attend one of our meetings the year before. I did get together with him. I didn't write down on July 22nd. I did write down the date, which was just after our meeting last time, and it was a good discussion. The biggest concern we had at the time was the fact that Phil Sullivan had retired, and we didn't really have a good sense of what was going to happen there. But I gather that was a long time in coming, and they had a lot of time to plan for it. I met the person who replaced Phil and the other one who was promoted to basically take over where the other guy was leaving off, and they had a plan to bring in another junior tech. I don't know if that's happened yet. And unfortunately, I didn't write down the names, so it's because I wasn't.
I think he did hire the tech.
He said they were close, as I recall, at the
yeah, we
time.
set up a standing monthly meeting with the school, so we've got some good projects and collaboration going on there. The great customer service of the school, Nate Preston, the network manager, has been phenomenal.
That's guy Nate, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a great relationship, and
good. Yeah, and then this is sort of towards Paul's concern that he's talked about before with respect to the right to repair. The school has all these Chromebooks, and there's the concern that they're going to get bricked, not because they are physically, incapacitated, but because software won't be made available for that thing after, some number of years. And Matt's response to that was to me when I brought that up with him. He said they haven't run into that yet because by the time a Chromebook cycles through a student's years in the high school, it is no longer viable to give it to another student, and it still has a year of software available to it. If it was just onesie twosie things, it would make sense to repair them and try to keep them going. But he said for an entire high school class, senior graduating class or whatever, 50 to 60% of them would require fixing screens, fixing keyboards, and the cost of that would just be overwhelming versus just cycling in new ones. So that's what they do because they don't have a good way to do those kinds of repairs at scale.
mm-hmm.
So anyway,
the life cycle for Chromebooks is not the life cycle, but the support cycle for Chromebooks is 5 years now. I thought it was
well, they've
considerably
actually
less.
changed it now. They
Okay.
changed it now because, frankly, we, the right to repair folks and PERG, got after them, and there was going to be a huge, because of the pandemic and all of these Chromebooks being bought at the same time, there was going to be this huge kind of turnover. So Google actually agreed to extend the support, I think, for 7 years.
Seven.
So,
yeah. And they've put that pretty much across the board. All the phones are 7 years now. You might not get the next major update to Android on an older phone, but you'll get all the security stuff backported to the previous version for 7 years.
One thing I've brought up repeatedly, and I mean, Chris, this isn't really your fight, but I mean, one issue that I don't really understand is why this district is insisting on buying every student a Chromebook when probably a significant percentage of students have devices at home, whether they're MacBooks or Windows devices. Almost all of the apps they're using are cloud-based. And, there was this like, well, it's easier to manage them all but it's just sort of like, it costs us millions of dollars. And I literally, and we're in this kind of use and throw away cycle that is just very hard to justify from an economic standpoint, from an environmental standpoint, and I just feel like, the district should be emphasizing bring your own device and then providing for those students who don't have a mobile device at home, providing them, something. I don't know. I don't think we should just be so casual about like, well, yeah, we'll use them for 4 years and throw them out.
Yeah, it's a larger discussion. Some of that's philosophical. Obviously, still building understanding of the school. I usually like to respect that the school is a different business, right, than the town, and understanding the curriculum side of it and the whole education piece. I have, taking it to an example on the town side, never been an advocate, for example, of putting in pure like municipal Wi-Fi or other networks, because I feel like in 2024, most people have mobile data, right, or equivalent. And it would be cheaper just to subsidize. So that's one of the things we're working with from the equity piece, is subsidizing people's access to the architecture infrastructure that we don't have to maintain, that the private companies can do better. At the same time, I mean, philosophically, there is a sensitivity, especially if you look at like the free and reduced lunch type programs, of creating a stigma around being the child who has to get the free Chromebook as opposed to the other. So I think there's some sensitivity that it would have to be approached in that way to make sure that we're done properly, so you weren't stigmatizing or making it obvious the kids that were, you know, being given a free or reduced Chromebook. But that's my 2 cents.
Okay. Paul, you wanted to talk about your meeting with the library board?
Yes. Do we want to let Chris go, because he doesn't need to stay on for this conversation?
Yeah, it's up to you, Chris. All right.
As much as I enjoy the conversation, I'll definitely be back.
Yeah.
It's been great.
And
hearing
I definitely have homework for you guys around the policy stuff, and I'm definitely going to hold Dan to doing the cable access show.
And I'll get you the document. I'll find a way to get you those documents that we put together. There's the ransomware one. There's also the 21st century government one, Paul, which it's kind of dated now, but it sounds like a lot of the things that you want to do, Chris, were ideas that we actually put in there.
Okay. I developed a full set of NIST policy when I was in Watertown that I may or may not have borrowed when I left, that I think might be a good starting off. It's stealing from myself.
This is a public agency. It's okay.
It is. So a little find and replace may be good. But
yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, just share that. That'd be wonderful. We'd love to look at that.
Yeah, when I get the documents from you, I'll share the whole sort of set of policies. I'd love to maybe use that as a jumping off point. One of my dreams would be to get some sort of learning management system in place for all town policies in one place, and training around that. So,
I mean, one thing just as a parting comment is, and we've said this to Patrice and the select board as well, like, we are a resource for you. We're kind of an internal consultancy, and, you know, sounds like a great assignment. If there's other stuff that pops onto your radar that you're like, oh, maybe I could upload this to ITAC, don't hesitate to, you know, email Dave and Dan and throw it into the hopper.
I love force multipliers, so that's
yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Thanks, Chris.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, Library Board of Trustees. I met with them last week or the week before. I can't remember exactly which. And gave them just an update on kind of what we were up to. I did talk about the you know, the work we're trying to do around incident response and that stuff. We talked a little bit about the building project. They don't seem to have any outstanding asks or needs around that. They were mostly interested. I think right now the library board of trustees is very interested in just kind of keeping their ties with the community strong in the absence of having a physical building for people to frequent. And so they're very interested in doing these community events. Again, they are sponsoring the Fix-It Clinic in November at the Beach Street Center. They hosted the other Fix-It Clinics we did pre-pandemic as well. And actually, you should come to that, because Peter Mui, who founded the Fix-It Clinic, is going to be at our clinic in November. Peter's a MIT grad, lives out in the Bay Area, and he created the whole Fix-It Clinic movement. He's in town for another event and has decided to swing by our Belmont Fix-It Clinic. So Peter and I are both on the Repair Coalition together on the board. He's a really great guy.
Is there a date for that yet, Paul? It sounds like there is.
Yes. It is. Hold on one sec. I think it is. Let me just see. I think it is Sunday the 17th, but let me double check it. And so they were very interested in talking kind of about opportunities to work with ITAC around you know, kind of community engagement and doing some talks or sessions, whether those are focused. I mean, obviously we've talked about, cybersecurity, safety, online scams, and kind of protecting yourself, or, how to, practice better security online and stuff like that. But they were pretty open, and I think they're very enthusiastic in having a few sessions scheduled and getting ITAC to help promote them, and also perhaps help them execute them, carry them out, find speakers, moderate them, what have you. And so the bulk of our time talking was really spent, just kind of talking through that, and how we might work together with the library to make that happen. And I told them that I would, take it back to you, and see what we might be up for doing. So just wanted to kind of throw that out there. It's Saturday, November 16th is the Fix It Clinic. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I don't know what people's thinking is, but that's mostly what we talked about. I think that's where their interests and needs are right now, is really around community engagement, around technology topics. Doesn't need how-tos or protect yourself. It could be discussions of AI and things like that. I mean, I think they're very open, but they just do want to keep engaged with the community while the building is under construction.
So thanks, Paul. I think you covered both your items there. Though they'll
bring your appliances. November 16th. Go get that broken toaster, man. I got a drill that stopped going when I pressed the trigger, so I gotta figure out what's going on with that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a vintage blender that I'm afraid to change the cord on myself.
Okay, bring it. Cord change, man. That's a no-brainer.
It's too bad I can't bring my house. I got an outlet that I need to fix, and I'll have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Charlie, I think you're muted.
One other thing, just on behalf of Fix It Clinic and the library as well. They have a roster of area coaches who go to different communities. And if any members of this committee are adept at doing fixing stuff, whether it's electronics or lamps or what have you, or know folks in the town who are pretty adept at that, and might be interested in coming down and being a coach for that Saturday, let me know, and I will connect them with the guy who is the local coordinator for Fix It Clinic, whose name is Jonathan Crones. So if you got any good, either you're a Fix It type, or folks who are, let me know.
Charlie, doesn't show you muted, but we can't hear you.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. It has something to do with the mic on my laptop. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Paul, what time of day is this going to happen on Saturday? Is it in the evening? Paul?
No, it is. Yeah, no, I know. It is in the morning. Let's just see. Hold on. 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Beach Street Center.
You could literally have people come down with their cars that need to be fixed. Is there some reasonable?
Here, I'll share. So I'm going to share a link in the chat where you can also register.
Not sure Paul can hear me. Maybe you guys can't hear me either.
No, we hear you.
I can hear you.
Yeah, okay. My question about this is, How big a problem can you actually bring down and expect to get help on? I
That's a
mean,
good question.
It says
If you
carry
haven't
in
been to one
only.
of these, yeah, it's carry in only. Although that,
okay,
the
okay.
limit there is really what you can fit through the door, which can be, the Beach Street Center, that can be pretty big. Um, what I would say is, some of these things are things, you can go there and they can do the repair and you can leave with it fixed. Some of them are, you're going to go there and get the problem diagnosed, and they're going to say, well, you need to order this part, and then you can come to the clinic that we're doing in this town, next week or the week after, and we can finish it up there. The whole idea of fix it clinics is to actually teach people how to fix things, as opposed to, in Europe they have these repair cafes that are more service oriented, like, well, we'll fix your stuff. The reality is the fix it coaches do a lot of the heavy lifting, but they are actually trying to kind of get you to fix your own stuff. um, so it really depends on what it is. Lamps and, even furniture and clothing and stuff like that, they can fix it on the spot. Simple electronics fixes, loose components on circuit boards and stuff that just need to be resoldered or replaced, can do that. Or bad wiring or stuff. Other stuff where you need a replacement part, it might be a multi-step thing.
I can
Yeah.
I can give a testimonial. I brought a chair, a dining room chair that was kind of getting rickety in, and I didn't have the confidence to like take it apart and put it back together again. But a woodworking person, he's like, "Here, okay, here's how to properly take it apart without wrecking it."
Mhm.
And he helped me glue it back in and clamped it in the at the fix it clinic. And then I had a second one at home that I did myself now that I knew how to do it. So super helpful.
Perfect example. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I'd say. I'd say if it's like an iPhone or a MacBook, it depends on what it is. That there definitely be somebody there who knows how to work on phones and MacBooks, but the question is, what's wrong with it, and is it going to be something they can fix, or they need to order a part from? But
I
as
would
we know, it's getting easier to fix that stuff.
well also the Apple Store people are fairly forthcoming at actually having an expert who can tell you what to do or do it for you. So I mean, that particular issue maybe is better handled by the true professionals. But I was just wondering if something like, people have all sorts of
Charlie, we're gonna have to have coffee sometime so I can talk you through the whole right to repair thing.
so, people have landscaping equipment like a lawnmower. I mean, is that a
Yeah.
fair thing, right?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Bikes. Actually, Will Brownsberger was at I think the last one we did at the library, which I think was 2019, or early 2020. And our Senator Brownsberger was actually there to help people fix their bikes.
No kidding.
Yeah, lawn mowers. Yeah, no, yeah, he was like outside and he was helping
I know
people
he's a good,
change
he's a
temperatures.
big long distance biker. I didn't know that.
He is, yeah, and he knows his way around. So fixing brakes and stuff like that, it was really cool. But I've definitely seen people bring lawnmowers in and leaf blowers and stuff like that for sure. Yeah, that stuff's really common. The other big issue, obviously, is what you're bringing in actually repairable? Was it manufactured in a way that you can open it and fix stuff and put it back together, or is it just going to kind of fall apart in your hands when you try and do that? But generally, lawn devices and stuff you can unscrew, take apart, fix. Don't get me started talking about right to repair. We're gonna
Yeah.
be here all
Okay.
night.
Thanks. Um, so the last thing other than other business is, last time we talked about subcommittees, I think there's a general sense that we could use one for trying to plan speakers and things like that, like we did in the past. There's one more of us now than there has been the last couple of meetings, so I don't know if this is enough to try to actually get something set up.
Well, I don't want to kick it down the road, kick the can again down the road another month. So
Okay.
maybe we don't figure out all the committees, but I think it's pretty clear cut um, that there is a demand for a committee that will organize talks or prepare you know how
Learning
to's,
sessions. Yeah.
yeah, learning sessions, web pages with, if you see something like this, go check it out on Snopes or whatever. um just basic stuff, and we can start to brainstorm about ideas. I don't want to spend a huge amount of time on it tonight, but I am willing to chair a subcommittee um, to look into talks, and if someone else would like to do a subcommittee on preparing how tos and things of that nature, or we could fold the two things together if there's enough overlap. Um,
I have a question about
Yeah.
how to do this
Go ahead.
without necessarily setting up the administrative framework for another committee. In other words, can we do essentially the same thing? There may be a group of 2 or 3 people, with a project leader and instead of a committee chairman, and those people would
That's
have
a subcommittee. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, now
I know it's
Ellen
no, I
Cushman's,
know it's a
yeah,
subcommittee, but do we have to call it that? And can we not
yes.
sort of do the committee-like work, every month, whereas the group could be working in preparation of that? I mean, do we have to
Well,
necessarily have,
I wanna-
agendas?
I think our town clerk would say you need a subcommittee, that you can't just kind of
Yeah.
have the committee meeting in this, kind of informal way. But
We need
Jave,
to
I
stay
mean,
on
it's
the right
worth
side of
asking,
open
but
meeting law.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
one of the
share your
things I remember
frustration.
from the training was don't send 2 people to do this, then one of those meets with one other person, and then one of those
Yeah.
meets with another person, and then you all put it back together, and it's already been deliberated and decided on. um, and I fear that even though we wouldn't be in that kind of a situation from a controversy perspective, um, the the not meeting the letter of the law would cause at least some amount of objection from the town clerk's office at the least.
Well, you may be absolutely right about Ellen's point of view on this, but this type of structure that I'm thinking about just provides more flexibility and in a sense won't be making any permanent decisions. They'll be making suggestions that the committee as a whole will act on, will vote on, and it will all get reported within the minutes of the monthly ITAC meetings. It's just an idea to sort of minimize the paperwork, if you wish, maximize the
Well,
what do you
if
think?
it turns out that we're all interested in serving on this committee, then why not? I do worry about making these monthly meetings longer by adding more stuff that could be done by a subset.
Well, I'm not saying that it couldn't be done, but the preparatory work could be done by a project group. But we just don't call it a subcommittee. We don't have the paperwork and the administrative overhead associated with it. But we do have to bring it back to the entire committee to get a decision. Let's say, for instance, this project group is oriented towards information that is related to IT, but of great concern to the general public. It could be identity theft, all right, that leads to scamming that affects a lot of people in town. There's no reason why a group of people that are especially interested in that can't get together as we would have to and work out the details of how we would approach somebody or some buddies who could talk about that. And But before there's any action, we got to have the committee vote on that particular issue.
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
we did all this 4.5 years ago, and I don't
Yes.
remember there being a lot of extra bureaucracy or paperwork involved in the subcommittees. It was
Well, there was paperwork.
am I misremembering it? That's
Well, it
Well,
wasn't.
you did need minutes.
yeah.
Did-
Yeah.
did the minutes. We did need an agenda. We would have to file the agenda, I believe, with the town clerk.
Yep.
And that's what I am sort of trying to get away from if it's not absolutely necessary and if it's not absolutely a violation of the open meeting law. If it is, it is, and you go along with the essentially creating another committee that has the requisite paperwork and procedures that have to be okayed by the town clerk.
Let me
I
ask
move to have Charlie bring his idea to Ellen Cushman and present it to her.
The whole idea
and
would
then
be
report
never
back
to
to
do
us
that.
on what our town clerk says, Charlie.
Never.
Do I have a second?
Sure.
But let me pose a hypothetical here. What if three residents, random residents, decided to set up a speakers bureau or whatever, and they went out and solicited potential speakers and came up with topics that would be of interest to the community. And then periodically, these three residents come to ITAC looking for our sponsorship, I'll call it.
Yeah.
I mean, those three residents don't have any obligation to open meeting law, do they?
No.
They do not.
Right.
So,
But
you know,
but
Jonathan,
we're not just residents.
I was thinking today, and I wasn't going to bring this up because it's gonna open a can of worms, especially one that I don't want to have to write the minutes for. But since this is like basically exactly where this is going, I was thinking, why does the ITAC have to be a town committee? There's absolutely nothing we do that is binding that we really need to be an official town committee for. We could be a nonprofit group that just gives advice to the select board, and they're free to ignore it. You don't need to be a town committee to be ignored by the select board and give them a report. And it would free us up to not have to worry about quorum, open meeting laws. It'd free up a lot of stuff and make our lives a lot easier. And I don't really see why we have to be a town committee. We don't vote on anything that matters.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, and we've been ignored multiple times.
Yeah, and the benefit would be we could do our reports, we could publish them on a website, so we could be ignored by multiple towns. I mean, we can table it and discuss this some other time, but I really don't understand why we have to suffer the bureaucracy of being a town committee when all we are is advising. We're not doing anything that has any what's the word, like
Yeah.
mandate
I mean,
on the members of the
yeah.
town.
Mhm.
We do benefit from our association with the town's government and the impression in the public that we have the backing of the town leadership and some and we have their ear. I mean, we know practically that that's not the case.
Yeah. Well, so I wouldn't propose we just do this on our own. I would say it'd be something we could ask the select board of. I was like, would you care if you got advice from an official town committee or a self-organized group?
Yeah.
They can endorse a nonprofit just as much as
Yeah. No, I'm not opposed. I'm just saying that there is a certain I'm not trying to get a word here, but we do get burnished a little bit by our official status, but I'm totally with you. I don't think we need that to do what we do, for sure. And
well,
I would definitely be open to other options.
It's a fair point.
I disagree.
Yeah.
I think there are some things we do that we could do just fine, but the burnishing, as you put it, Paul, I think is really important because, when we send email to the light board saying, hey, we want to come visit your meetings and talk to you, they answer the email. They take our calls because we're appointed by the select board, school committee, library trustees, etc. We're legit. We're not. I mean, not to cast aspersions on any particular group of people, but if you there are people in the town who maybe wouldn't get invited to the light board meetings.
Yep.
I think
Did we
also,
just lose
Yeah, I mean,
Jonathan?
that's it also is,
I don't see him.
Yeah, I think we
you
lost
hear
our
me?
scribe. Oh, I hear you. Yeah. Wait, how come I
No,
don't?
I was wrong, Jonathan. I
Wrong,
was
Jonathan.
Yeah, sorry.
I think I was
I
also
think I
going to
said the
say,
wrong thing. Sorry.
no, I
You
agree
said-
with you, Dan. I think on issues of security and things like that, you know, we have the ability to ask questions and get answers that
yes,
if you were Joe off the street, the town would be
Yeah.
you wouldn't get an answer probably.
yeah, I think that's
And,
right.
and even though
In terms of access, yeah.
even though I'm recommending this for um, subgroup activity, I don't believe that dissolving the committee per se is a good idea, because we do have a certain, I don't know if you want to call it status, standing, or ability to get our phone calls returned, but we do. And I think that's important. And I think actually moving forward with the new CIO, we're probably going to have a little more influence than maybe we've had in the past. And our help will be perhaps implemented more than it has in the past. So I don't think the eliminating the committee per se and the necessarily administrative infrastructure that goes along with that, I don't think that's a good idea, but I don't think that everything we do of an interest and that may involve a subgroup necessarily has to have the same administrative structure, more or less, as the committee itself. That's all.
Well, I completely agree with the principle of least possible bureaucracy. I just don't know where that line is, and I don't want to get on the wrong side of it.
Like I say, I mean, I think the model could be that, different projects spin off. They may include or be comprised of people who are on this committee, but the projects spin off, do their thing, and maybe if they want sort of a stamp of approval, they come to ITAC and we can formally endorse them. But the project development doesn't necessarily have to occur as a subcommittee of ITAC, just because it happens to include ITAC members, the project committee.
We could certainly give that a try. I mean, I think for something like finding a speaker, that's not a very controversial thing.
Mhm.
I would hope anyway. I'm sure someone will find a way to say, "Why'd you get that guy instead of the other one?" But
P. Diddy, what? Plus, we're about to get an email address. I mean, this would be the wrong time to leave town government. We're about to get our own email account, right, Dave?
Yes, yeah, that's right. I was gonna bring that up.
Well, we're on
So-
Google
We've
now,
been
and we're going to be
waiting
on
for
Google in the
30
future.
years.
So we got an email from James Goody saying that they're setting up email addresses for all the town committees. Do we want one? I asked him, is the point of this to like not have us use our own that we use for scheduling, and that includes people who aren't on the committee, our town staff liaisons? And he said, no. This is really just so that someone can look at the website, and if they want to get in touch with you, they have a way to do it. And I said, okay, that's fine. And then we can decide amongst ourselves who actually wants to get those emails, or if we decide it's just the chairs who get those emails and forwards it on,
Maybe chairs and secretary, but
yeah,
we
well,
don't have a permanent secretary, so
right. Like I said, that's when the thing gets set up, I'll send something out. I don't think we need to go into any depth on it now because it's not real yet, and I don't really know what it's going to look like. But he did indicate that that's the idea.
returning to Dan's idea, Dan, I would be happy to be part of that subcommittee if we're going to set one up. Setting up scheduling speakers and setting up talks is right up my alley.
Thank you. I think we need a motion though to
Yeah, we
decide
need a
how we're gonna
motion
proceed.
we need a motion to form it and list who agreed to do it.
Well,
And we
to
could
respect
table
Charlie,
that till
we
next
need,
time if you want
yeah.
to.
No, we're all here. We're all
Let's do it.
talking about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So Charlie's, just to articulate Charlie's position is we should do this, I think, is what he's saying, but we don't need a subcommittee. So I guess the first question is, how do people feel about this? Do we want to form a subcommittee, or do we want to try to do it without that apparatus? I'd like to try to resolve that if we can tonight.
Well, I'll make a motion that we do it on a project team basis, not as a formal subcommittee.
Yeah, I'm inclined to give it a try.
Yeah.
And I mean, my guess is that it's unlike the ones where we were writing papers, and there was an actual output of it. This would be, I think, something where we could probably do that and it would not cause any problem. It might not even run afoul of anything because we wouldn't be deliberating on anything of substance, right? The writing the papers, the ransomware paper and the 21st century government paper, those I think made sense for a subcommittee because we were deliberating on what are we going to say as a committee to the select board.
Mhm.
Okay.
And we're basically, I believe, interested in setting up opportunities to provide information, not from ourselves necessarily, but from, speakers, that are knowledgeable. We're
Yeah,
not,
as long as it's less than 4 of us, it's fine. I think we can do that. Right, because if you had more than 4, you'd have a quorum of ITAC members.
oh, we wouldn't. We have 9 ITAC members. So it's got
more than 4
No,
equals
more than
5.
4 is a quorum.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Dan,
So
I'm
okay.
Unless we have fractional people.
It's like
I
the
didn't
stock market.
I didn't catch that. Do I want to catch that? I don't know.
Have a share.
I said unless we have fractional people.
Fractional people.
No. All right, so there was a motion. Do I hear a second? Sorry, I'm taking your spot, David.
I'll second it.
And exactly what is the motion?
Yeah, we should probably get that, make sure that's written down.
Okay.
All right, I'll try.
And when it goes into the minutes and Ellen reads it, she'll yell at me, but that's okay. I mean, that's really the worst that'll happen is Ellen will yell at us and we'll have to, revisit.
Subcommittee. Yeah.
So the motion is
ask for forgiveness rather than permission.
Yes,
Right.
that's right.
the motion is that there be a project team set up to explore a speakers bureau. There may be a better name for this. To put together evenings where topics of interest to the general community can be presented by a known expert, and that this Speakers Bureau will operate separate from ITAC, or not, excuse me, the project committee will operate separate from ITAC up to the point where it might come to ITAC for, sorry about this, Jonathan, but yeah, I'll catch it, up to the point where the project committee might bring the actual speaker event to ITAC for endorsement.
Well, wait a
So it's
minute.
very specific.
I think you're suggesting that in certain instances we might not bring it to ITAC. I don't like that. I think it's always got to come back to ITAC. In other words, this is a project team of ITAC members, but it's a project team. It's not a subcommittee. We're trying to do away with administrative
We
overhead.
move to create a project team to vet and recommend speakers for a community speaking series related to technology subjects, including cybersecurity, online safety, and so on.
That's better. That's succinct.
That's certainly easier to write.
What Paul said.
And I don't think the members of this working group or whatever we're calling it, necessarily all need to be ITAC members. It could be that,
No, they
we
don't.
get
Yeah.
concerned citizens
Yeah.
involved.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just have
A
to be careful
lot of great technical people in town who could probably help us brainstorm stuff. So yeah, absolutely, and connected as well.
Yeah, no, I don't see anything wrong with that either. It's just that I guess we have to be careful, but it's no more than 4 of us who
Yep.
are this project.
Yep.
Okay.
This is the
I
most complicated motion we've ever made, I think.
I would argue if this is just a bunch of folks getting together, not all of whom even need to be from the ITAC, that it's best if we don't create a motion for this.
I don't know about that.
I was actually starting to think along that same line.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess I'm going rogue here. and just going off and doing my own thing. And any 3 of you who want to join me, send me your interest via email.
Count me
Sounds
in,
good.
Dan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Me too.
Been nice knowing you.
Are you
I'll block for you.
Well, are you sure it's a good idea not to have a motion to organize a project team?
I'm pretty sure a committee motion is not needed for any number of citizens in Belmont to get together over coffee and discuss anything they want, and it's not required for them to show up at any committee meeting and express their opinion as citizens to any committee. However, if one committee makes a motion to split off such a group, that looks a lot like a subcommittee.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I
That's fair.
think, yeah, I mean, I think
So
we're
I-
probably okay with this, starting out that way at least. Like I said, at some point, maybe Ellen watches the YouTube of this meeting and freaks out. I don't know what the odds of that happening are, but
Are we required to make a YouTube with this one?
no, we do this. This is our own.
Yeah.
This is
I
our own
withdraw
thing,
my motion.
and I'm really not too concerned about it.
All right.
What exactly are we going to put into the minutes? I think there should be an entry, if only that.
Well, we should certainly say that we discussed how we might find speakers, and I think we can leave it at that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, since we've talked
Okay.
around this issue and not resolved anything officially, do we want to talk around the other issue of handouts, how-tos, best practices kind of things? Does anyone want to run with that? Or do we want to put that off until maybe next month?
I mean,
I
that sounds
probably- I think-
like a lot more work, and that's
Yeah.
much as I would like to try to help with that. I don't even at my limited working hours, I don't know that I have the cycles to certainly not to develop content. It'd be one thing to to search for stuff that's already out there, but
that's kind of what we did. If you remember, God knows how many years ago, 5 years, 7 years ago now, we did a couple years in a row, we did the thing at Meet Belmont.
We did.
And I think we did something else, but I remember Meet Belmont very clearly. And I Googled around, and there's all these, sort of things, and you copy and paste and give proper attribution where necessary. So we weren't inventing these things from scratch. It was really more the organization and delivery of a page of material. Like, do you have backups? Don't use the same password everywhere. Things that you just very simple things like that. So I'm not trying to say you should do it because it won't take much time. We can stretch this out over a long period of time. There's no due date on it, so it can be a low intensity kind of thing over a stretch of time. So I'm hoping it's not a huge amount of work. but I'm not volunteering to do it because I already volunteered to do the other thing. So.
Yeah.
Well, these how-to or instructions not to do, they could logically just come out of what we come up with as the idea for a topic of discussion, a speaker, and then there could be a handout that accompanied that. I mean, that might just be a byproduct of
Yep.
it.
It's possible, but I have a sort of counter argument, which is it takes a while to organize a talk. I mean, you got to get the room, you got to get the media center involved, you got to work with the schedule of the presenter. Um, it can take months. Just even after you totally decided who's going to talk and what they're going to talk about, it can take months to set that up. Whereas if there's something that pops up in the news, like there's a new virus or a new scam or a new something, you might want to be able to turn that around more quickly and have something we can put up on the website for the town or something like that immediately or in a couple of days. Like, worried about this thing, here's what you need to know, kind of thing.
But that would, yeah, I agree. I mean, that need not involve a speaker per se, or even an event per se. But it sounds like something that the project team would have to create and then come back and get committee approval, wouldn't we? If we're going to put it up on the ITAC website, I would think so.
I think so. I think if there's a sudden need, then we could have an ad hoc meeting with 3 days notice.
Yeah. Or have we somewhere along the line given the two co-chairs permission to make additions to the website about certain activities? We certainly do as far as the annual report is concerned, but I think we've technically voted on that.
Good question.
Yeah, well, we typically vote on the annual report, except for last year when we were late, and I was told by whatever her name is and the Pam, whatever Callahan, I think it is, that I needed to get it to her, and it was well before the next possible meeting, so I just did it, and then I showed it to you that, and we sort of voted after the fact. I mean, there really isn't an ITAC website. There's the page that lists our names and our years and the town staff that meet with us and the that little blurb of text. And I think you gave me permission to write a change to that blurb of text, and I don't remember if I sent it to James to fix before or after we looked at it in a meeting. But it's not like we have a content management system where we go up there and put stuff on a website. The documents that we've developed have all been submitted to the select board, and at least the ransomware one, I have no idea what happened to the 21st century, but the ransomware one was considered sensitive, so that's not going anywhere.
Well, I'm thinking about, the hypothetical that Dan just mentioned. A topic comes up in the popular media. It has we consider it to be an important topic. We have easily developed a point of view with how-tos that benefit people in the town. Where do we go with that? I mean, do we just basically wait until the next committee meeting, approve it, and then you put it up on the website as sorry, I use the term site. I really mean page, okay? I realize
but we don't do that at all, period. We don't put anything there.
No.
We submit stuff to the town that needs to be submitted, and they put it wherever it goes, if it goes at all.
Well, I guess I'm suggesting that maybe we
right.
have control.
And I mean, that's I don't know how to make that work. I mean, as Chris said before, we use Civics Plus, which is the worst possible municipal website platform except for all the others. And we did use one of the others before it, and it was much worse. And I've no, so as far as I know, there is no way for them to give us access, and none of us are town employees. There is really no reason for them to give us access to actually manage content on the town website. I certainly wouldn't do that without having some kind of a, even if it was a volunteer, some kind of you know, uh, agreement in place, understanding of the rules, yada yada yada. Um, so I mean, we don't have a place to put stuff. Is the main point.
If that's true, what would we do then with something like a how-to list based on what we know and that was motivated by a recent event publicized in the popular media? I mean,
We
I
we
think
we would
this is a
need
question.
some. We would need to have some place at the town ahead of time that where there's some kind of agreement that says, that we understand ITAC is going to do this, and here's the process set up to get things posted.
I mean,
I
I
think this
think,
is a question to give
we
to send to the town and say,
yeah.
if
I
we
mean,
want to do this,
practically,
how
I
do we
feel
do
like
it?
I
well,
feel practically like if we wanted to post something to our web page, to our page on the town's website, and wanted to just, email something to them, like, could you please put this up? And that they would do that. I don't,
Yeah.
whether that makes it discoverable by people, it's another question. And the answer is probably not very easily.
Well, we
It
can
would
send it to the
make more
voice,
sense for us to, yeah. Yeah, we
well,
can send, that's right.
Well,
Yeah, you can
well,
send it
you
to the
know
voice.
what? I mean, I guess one thing we could do is create something on our own, a folder in Google Docs or whatever, and and add the link just as we do with our YouTube channel to our page on the website, because then we'd have
Mhm.
control over it, and we wouldn't be asking the town to take PDFs or Word docs or whatever else that we might produce and have to store it somewhere and figure it out. Right? That's the concern I have, because there's no place to post documents on our web page, that I on that web page that I'm aware of. Even things like, meeting minutes and stuff like that, those are links under the calendar. So they've got a structure somehow. I'm not convinced that that structure supports what we'd be trying to do using the town web service. But I wouldn't be averse, like, to actually having something that, and then just putting a link to it on the page, if the town is okay with that.
well, how do you think the town would feel if we got into the routine or habit of coming out with almost public service articles or public service comments that we do indeed send to the Belmont Voice that goes out to every, you know, post office address and
Well,
how do you think they'd feel about that?
Well,
How do we feel?
that's a little beyond our charter, I think. But
yeah.
But I'm here on the town website now, and it
Yeah.
seems to me that if we have something that we think is, let's call it urgent, it needs to be broadcast to the residents, that there's a slot to the left-hand side, a big thing that has sort of a scrolling, there's probably a name for it, scrolling announcements. And we could put that in, and there's, I think, 3 or 4 right now, I see. We could put our announcement that they're, urgent, be careful about this, and with a link that then would pull up a PDF, and that I see that format is embedded into the website. And then a window comes up and displays a PDF. So we can put the announcement that we have this content right in the homepage of Belmont, Massachusetts, and then with and provide the clerk whatever with or the administrator's office, whoever, with the PDF document that we want to that might have more detail, and then they can easily view it within the website itself. So I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. And then we can go to we can post something in the Voice or put something on the Facebook group or Twitter or whatever, saying, "Hey, have you check out this thing on the town website?"
Yeah.
All right. Well, that
So,
sounds.
yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think that sounds reasonable. It's a question then of figuring out who to talk to get stuff put in that announcement thing and
Right.
what their process is.
Mhm.
I have no idea what that would be, who controls that.
Would that be something that Chris McClure and his staff would control, or that Patrice?
Well, they would control they control the platform. I'm not sure they control the content decisions.
Yeah, that's
The impression I always had when when Dave talked about I don't remember the name of his employee who managed the town website, was that she handled the upkeep of it and putting stuff there, but he and she were not involved at all in deciding what actually went there.
Mhm.
Right, which makes sense. That's not what an IT department does.
It sounded though that Chris was looking to bring somebody on in that kind of a capacity, though. He mentioned that.
Yes, yeah, he did. He wanted to expand on the marketing of the town, I think,
Yeah, it's
versus what
part of a
they.
311 sort
Yeah,
of capability. So I don't know. We got a lot of questions.
yeah.
indeed. In order to publicize any event that we came up with and organized and recruited somebody for, we've got to select ways to market it that are more effective than what we had last year. I mean, 4.5 years ago. We had some great sessions, but not great turnouts. That was the problem. And part of it just was, I think, getting the word out that, the
Yeah.
this existed.
Oh, I remember, one of them, as I mentioned before, we had to schedule about 2 months in advance. And we scheduled it for the same night that turned out to be one of the last presidential debates. So I was surprised anybody turned up, but so we did. We did get a much better turnout than I expected.
All right. Well, I can just, I have other memories the session on electric vehicles that I thought was the panel was well constructed. It happened to be in the middle school auditorium, which of course made the crowd seem smaller than it might otherwise because that's a big auditorium. And we didn't really get that many people to come. And I would have thought, gee, this is a topic that Belmont people probably would be really interested in. And it was 4.5 years ago when the concept of buying an electric vehicle was more of a novelty than it is today. So,
But in the slot on the homepage, I mean, I see that the Belmont Wellness Coalition is advertising a meet and greet, and it just gives the when, where, and what. So that's very analogous to any sort of speaker
Yeah.
thing that we would do.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, there's got to be a process. We just need to figure out what it is.
yeah, you just have
Yeah.
to find out what it is and
Yeah.
make use of it. And also maybe in addition to that, make the appropriate contacts at the Belmont Voice to see, what they could do as well.
Mhm.
Does
I think
anyone
that's
want to
more
take
likely
on
to
the?
be a. I think that's more likely to be a useful communication vehicle because people get the paper free every week
That's
as
right.
opposed to going to the website, which they might do once every 3 or 6
If
months.
ever, if ever. But yeah, sure. I mean, the Belmont Voice, I mean, I look at it. I find it interesting. I don't spend a lot of time looking at it, but if there's something there that interests me, I will read it. And I think it's a great resource now that we have that we really didn't have after they changed the focus of the Belmont Citizen to the Eastern Massachusetts citizen.
I do
Well,
some
does
volunteering for them, and they're always looking for newsworthy things about town to publish. So I'm sure they would pick up anything we decided to publicize.
was anyone willing to take on the task of going off and independently researching some of these questions about how to get stuff onto the website? And
I'll do that.
I don't know. I guess that's the first thing.
I think it's a single phone call. I'm very happy to do that.
Thank you. Just don't deliberate.
With myself.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Would you like to call the Belmont Voice and ask them about the appropriate way for, and I'm going to describe it as a town committee sponsoring an event and get it into the paper. If that,
I can do that.
okay. I would have done it.
I'll do the equivalent. Well, I already know, I
You know them?
know them.
Okay.
I'm a little nervous about just publishing things in the paper without getting some sort of acquiescence from the select board.
Well,
And it's one thing to say we publish it on the town website, go look at it. We can put that in the voice, and we can put that on Facebook and so forth. But just kind of going out there and saying we have no filter. This is just what we want. This is what we think. And by the way, we're an appointed board. I don't know.
I was thinking more in terms of you're thinking in terms of something that a memo that we might write and get published, and
Yeah.
that we perhaps don't have the autonomy or the right to do. But I was thinking as much just to find out how we get on.
Oh yeah.
There's probably two parts. There's probably
Yeah,
two parts
yeah.
to it. There's the notice that says the thing is going to happen,
Right.
which is, I think other committees do that all the time. And then there's maybe a write-up after the fact that says, this event was held in so and so a date, and here's what it was all about. And this is the public event. I don't think the select board would have any governance over a summary of what happened that anybody could go to and write an article about.
As a matter of fact,
Well, yeah.
5 years ago, I think it was the first session. I remember it as being, I think Glenn arranged this with a friend who happened to be, I think, in Navy intelligence, or had been in Navy intelligence. And we didn't get it announced in the Belmont Citizen per se, or if we did, it was a very, very brief announcement. But they actually sent a reporter to the event, wrote it up to a certain degree, and published it after the fact, so that people who didn't come to the event could nevertheless see what the subject matter was and what was said. So yeah, I think that, Jim, if you're going to call them, I would just say, hey, by the way, there's that avenue about announcing and then having the content of the event be written up or reported on still exist, with the voice, and they'll probably say, yeah, we just need to know.
I bet if we send them copy, they'll just print it. Most local papers, they'll look it over to make sure it's not propaganda or something, but they're hungry for material.
I know, but sometimes they get a little bit antsy about not having their reporter write it up. Now, with the voice, they have limited staff, limited budget, so you're right. It might be easier simply to write it up, send it to them, but if you could ever get the reporter to come and report on it.
Oh, even better. Yeah.
Well, there's a difference
we have
between
the
reporting on a speaker versus writing something that a message that we're trying to get out. Those are two different things.
I agree. And that we're talking about the idea of finding out from the voice if they have the people power to send somebody.
It's a hypothetical question right now, so I would suggest we wait until we have an event scheduled and then see if the timing works for them and if the topic is of interest.
Well, what about approaching them now? Not so much about sending the reporter, but simply finding out how we get those things announced.
There's a link on their website, Belmont Voice Community Calendar. I just found it. You put in your name, your email, information about the event, upload a photo if you want to, say where it is. There's a form on the website. You type the information in, you push submit.
Okay.
Pretty confident that'll work.
All right. I agree with you that
I've been doing volunteer editing for them for about 6 months now, and they're very well organized and probably more so than the old paper was.
I agree with you that you don't want to ask for do you have a reporter? Hypothetically, I mean, we should have an event in hand and say, are you interested? Yep. Okay.
So we're coming up on 2 hours. So, if there's anything else, let's go to it, and otherwise we can start looking at the next meeting.
Kristen sent out an email earlier saying that Thursday night's just not good for her.
Yep.
Ongoing commitment.
I saw that.
Will the committee, maybe we should do this by email. Everyone can look at their calendars and try to figure this out. Because we'll have to vote on it next time, I guess. Figure out if there's another night we could meet.
Well, we've never voted on it. It's always been a matter of coordination, and we've always adjusted if we had to. So my inclination would be to stick with the third Thursday for the moment, and I'll send a note out saying, I know that there's an issue. I'll reply to Kristen's email and saying, okay, we are tentative on October 17th. That might actually not be the greatest day for me either, because of the holidays, but I'm not sure that. Let's try to find another day that week or the week after or something like that.
Let me just say that Thursdays, or of all the days of the week, can be problematic for me as well, because we usually have theater tickets on Thursday. So whenever the show comes up, it would be a Thursday that I would not be able to. I've had this happen a couple of times already, where I have to back out of this meeting because
it worked for some period of time, and if it's not working now, we'll find another one.
Yeah.
But we don't need to, we'll figure that out by email, just as we have in the past.
Okay.
Well, I'm just afraid if we just preemptively say we're going to meet third Thursday or whatever in October, then we already know that there's somebody who can't.
Yeah, but we don't know when she can.
That's true. I responded to her email earlier, and I just checked my mail. I haven't heard any response yet. So
yeah. Right. So, I mean, if she came back and said, could we do it Tuesday, I would be asking if we could do it Tuesday, but we don't have that. So my inclination is to, just because I want to have something on the calendar, I don't know if it's really necessary, but we've always, when I've submitted the minutes, I've said we've tentatively scheduled the next meeting for whatever. And
okay, as long as it's tentative and we can.
Yeah, I mean, nothing's written in stone until it gets posted.
Okay. Let me just say, I'm out between Thursday, October 17th through the 24th. So that's basically 2 Thursdays.
Okay. So
I'm out of town.
I'll like I said, I'll get a note out. I'll reply all to Kristen's note and see if we can find a night earlier that week. Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday.
I'm out the Tuesday. I'm out Monday, Tuesday.
Well, we'll do this in email and we'll figure it out.
Yep.
We've done doodle polls in the past. I can do that too.
Yep.
Yep.
That's just a kind of a dreadful week. Sorry.
Yep. Yeah, and that's happened. We're here tonight instead of last week because last week was a bad week. This is the 4th Thursday in September, as it turns out. So, we'll figure it out.
Jonathan
All right.
Burge, if you want to grab the URL out of the chat, I put the URL for the Belmont Voices community events page in the chat, as well as the URL for the submission form.
Thanks very much. Does that chat get included in the final AI notes, or should I copy that now?
I don't know if I don't remember if
Okay.
the notes thing pulls stuff out of the chat.
And I don't think it shows up in the video, so.
Yeah, it won't show up
Probably.
in the video.
Okay. I just at least screenshotted it, worst case scenario.
Yeah. All right. Motion to adjourn.
So just
Second.
make it clear, we're not scheduling the October meeting right now.
We'll do it. I'll do a tentative thing for the 17th, and I will send an email out after tonight to figure out what it's really going to be.
Okay.
If I didn't catch, do we have the motion and the second and the unanimous vote
Yes.
to go?
I think
We
I
do.
seconded.
Okay. I think we can say that it's unanimous to adjourn. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night. Good night.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Good night, everybody.
I know.